Good afternoon, everyone. I am glad to welcome everyone to the program. And today we have the first lesson where we talk about recruiting tools, this course. It's new, it's different. Here's several such distinctive characteristics. The first one is the brightest. Yes, these are all the presentations that you will see on the screen. They will be in English. But we will discuss it. As usual, those participants who have chosen a translation package will be able to receive these presentations and all the tools in translation. So they are all being translated. It's no problem. And how is this course different? He's at 40 classes. In other words, this is a rather long course. We will be working on this course for almost a whole year. And each lesson it consists of such a dense set of tools for each of the topics that are discussed here. We will see the list of topics soon. That is, it is the most such an instrumental course. When I created it, my task was to try. In general, here is everything that can be invested here from the point of view of tools, so that for this year you could get a little less than a year. That's what exists in HR at all, the best, the most useful, the most effective. What does this course give to participants? Why does anyone need to go through this? As I said, due to the fact that there are a lot of all kinds of materials here, you can come in relatively well in the context. For example, there is a career charm. 40 weeks is not that long. Yes, I've had a job at HR for 15 years, for example. And in 40 weeks you will get what people have been collecting for years. This is a great advantage. That is, you save your time a lot, you get everything in one source. So this is an opportunity for you to cool up and reach a new level. That's the advantage of the course. This course has a website. Like all courses, it looks like this. And if suddenly we don't know someone, my name is Mike Pritchula. Here are the companies in which I worked, and in each of these companies I implemented some tools in one form or another. Yes, that is, I am more. You know, I had positions there: recruiter, training and charting manager, business partner, head of recruitment, adaptation and charting department, director, head of total resources. In general, I had different roles, and wherever I worked, I had roles about creating something new, about implementation, about some projects, about developing tools. And so I think that in each company there are from 10 to 30, if not more, tools I have developed and implemented, so a lot of things have accumulated. Plus, when I'm already teaching students, something is added. Accordingly, this course contains all this experience, all knowledge and all the most relevant. I rely on the best world practice in my work. I also recommend students to keep track of them. That is, this is a list of companies that are extremely useful to monitor. Also in this course we will have homework, respectively. There will also be 40 of them, the completion of which will allow us to get a diploma. Yes, this diploma, I think, will be one of the most top in this direction, in our direction. That's because he will prove that you have managed to use at least 40 tools during the entire training. We issue the diploma on the top platform. On this platform, more than 1,000 companies issue more than 1 million diplomas monthly. Among them are Google, Slack, Zenz, Harvard. That is, you see that your diploma will be a very good company. The course program consists of 40 classes. They cover all directions. Let's take a look at the first few there. For example, today we are talking about recruiting, and today there will be a lot of recruiting tools. Next we will talk about sourcing and recruiting, and there will be a lot of sourcing tools. Then we will be the employer's brand. There will be tools about the employer's brand, then charm marketing. Yes, how is this a little continuation of the employer's brand, then the evaluation of candidates? Well, as we progress, we cover absolutely all topics that may be. Here is a continuation of these topics. This way you will get the tools. And I even specifically called every lesson the word tools. Yes, to emphasize this. So set the framework for yourself. Well, I think that according to today's lesson it is as exemplary. Yes, it is an example of the whole course. You will see how many different tools there are and what they are. This is how the course program looks like. Today we will talk about a set of recruiting tools. I will not read them out, you will just see them now, one by one. What are, for example, these recruiting tools? These are the tools that are extremely useful to implement in a company. The introduction of these tools in the company is exactly what I have been doing in various companies. When I came, I was developing something was ready somewhere. So I implemented them into my work, which allowed me to achieve results. That is my idea of the participants. Yes, here you are studying the tools and you try to choose from them as much as possible. Maybe those that are not there, or those that are most relevant now. As much as possible to take and implement them in your work, adapting them for yourself, adding some information there, rewriting something. Well, it means that there will be some kind of adjustment for yourself here. The first topic. The first tool that I would recommend to implement in the rating is a recruitment application. This is something that is very important and something that is sometimes overlooked. That is, when, for example, there is no application for selection. What does the job of a HR or recruiter look like there? The manager comes running or writes, "I need an urgent candidate like this." And the description you will take on the internet. Yes, he is the same as all the other candidates, there are some kind of accountant or something else. But the fact is that there are no two absolutely identical roles. Yes, an accountant is still in one company, he performs some tasks for another company, maybe the same tasks are a little different. And the tasks will also be different, the processes are different. Therefore, it is extremely important that you have an application for selection today in additional materials, it is in an editable format. This is Microsoft Word Plus. Today we will look at what should be there and what such elements will be most useful to you. So, of course, the title of the position, the division, the planned release date. And here it is immediately indicated that such an application must be submitted in advance. Yes, so that a person, when submitting an application, sees that the plans. This exit, roughly speaking, cannot be earlier than 30 days from today, because there are deadlines further. How many people are needed is not one person. Why this vacancy is open for the recruiter to understand. What is the level of expertise? That's also very important. And here it is immediately indicated that if you need a high level of expertise, be prepared to pay the maximum salary fork. Well, if the initial level of expertise, then it may be the lowest salary. This is to manage the expectations of the manager, so that they don't say, "Find me a top employee, and the salary we have there is like this." Then what tasks need to be completed in the next 3 months? But let's talk about it now. This is an important point. The work schedule, the presence of any overtimes and irregular working hours, the presence of business trips. That's some kind of specificity. If it happens that a company has several projects or several similar departments, it is very important to understand the specifics of these departments among themselves. For example, when I worked at the STB TV channel, we had about 30 television projects, and the employee there is a journalist. On one project, he did not do exactly the same work as on the other. Further are the requirements. I immediately recommend dividing the requirements into mandatory and desirable. And here, too, we begin to manage the expectations of the manager. What requirements do we prescribe? This education is desirable with universities, work experience is required. What positions could this employee have held previously? Also very useful information for making a search map. For example, the required knowledge, skills and abilities. Do you mean professional ones here? Yes, some building of computer programs, if it assumes the presence of certificates, training courses that a person has passed, personal qualities or soft skills and some unacceptable personal qualities. There is a leader. You know, there is such a thing. This is unacceptable. Then you need to specify this here too. But it is necessary, of course, to check all this. For example, trustworthiness, so that it would not be that some quality it would discriminate against some people. That's the same thing there with work experience, too. Well, you always need to be careful with this, so that it does not happen that you have created a job with discrimination. Then there is a very interesting point. The section is the selection process. Here we say in advance who and how will conduct the interview in such a sequence, because managers have different expectations. Who will conduct the final interview to pass immediately? For example, this hiring manager, is he the final achievement maker, or is there still some higher level manager who will coordinate everything? And then, a very cool point that I came to is the desired method of evaluating candidates, since managers have different wishes and different expectations and different deadlines in which they expect a candidate. And a recruiter, he can, roughly speaking, evaluate almost no one there at all and share all the candidates with the occupying manager, or he can make a serious assessment. That's why it's very cool. That was in my experience when we introduced the possibility to coordinate in advance. For example, hey, the recruiter sends all the candidates, even especially there, without selecting for an interview. The head receives the first candidates as quickly as possible, so he can already consider them there at least by resume or invite them to an interview. The second option is when recruiters conduct the initial selection by phone, by Zoom, by Skype or personally and shows people who formally pass it a little slower, but already more. Filtering, that is, the manager receives fewer, but already selected candidates. The third option is when the recruiter conducts a detailed interview based on competence, carefully selects people, shows the manager a small number of super coolly selected people. But it takes a little more time. A competence profile is required. Even if it is expected that the recruiter will look for targeted candidates, some highly specialized for predetermined companies. And this is when there is also a test task, also gives a professional test task, and the head gives already with a test task the result. Then how quickly would the manager like to get the first resume to understand the urgency of the vacancy? Here and further duties. What is the role of the position? What is the area of responsibility? What are the powers, goals for this position? Who is subordinate to this position and who is subordinate to this position? And then the competence profile. Here is such an application. Managers don't always want to fill it out in detail. Yes, it doesn't happen that way. I know, it's very long. In such cases, when managers did not want to fill in details, we asked them to specify at least the first part so that the recruiter would then meet with the head and ask questions about the details. But still these details are needed. Here is such a good tool. Having collected all this information, it is much easier for recruiters to look for people further. As a result of this application, the recruiter should have a profile of the position on his hands, which will then form the basis of the vacancy text and the basis of the scorecard of candidates. As a result, the most important thing for us is the mission of the position. Most importantly, why this position? There is a set of goals, expected results and competences. Here I want to emphasize that, well, there were also applications about responsibility, there were about responsibilities, but there were also about tasks for the first 3 months and in general about goals. This part is about goals and expected results. It is very important because it helps to search for candidates more accurately, more clearly. That is, it allows you not just to look for some abstract candidates with general responsibilities there, but to search for candidates who will be able to fulfill these goals as much as possible. And the second task of this description of expected results and goals is that the candidates themselves, when they see not just responsibilities, but goals and expected results. For a candidate, this vacancy is more attractive. I have experimented many times when we inserted not duties into the texts of the vacancy, but simply goals and expected results there from the next year. This was the best response and the candidates' reviews when they said that listen, everything is written so coolly in general as clearly as possible. That is, I have read your vacancy, everything is very clear to me. I have never met such a person, and people say it's interesting for me to do it. I realized that I would like to do this. Here's next. The next tool is a job description. What I recommend not to do is never copy the job description from the internet, because the texts of vacancies on job sites, or no matter where they get, they compete with each other. Yes, it is in fact a direct competition with the way the work is described. The more attractive the text, the better it is composed, the more likely it is that the candidate will send a resume to this vacancy and not to those competitors. If we just copy some good someone else's text, well, we're just trying to pull over a little bit of candidates who read our text there and ours will say, well, okay, I'll send them there and there. When do we compose a unique text that is not similar to the texts of competitors? Firstly, it even immediately catches the eye. Candidates, well, they often do not read the entire text of vacancies. Yes, they do what is called scanning, that is, they just run diagonally. When your text is written uniquely, their eyes catch unusual elements in the text, the mention of some books, some stories, storytelling, some appeal to the candidate, some unusual professional words, some tasks. That is, when it is not written in a streamlined, universal, as detailed as possible, then even there a quick cursory glance at the vacancy, it already makes you pay attention to something. And then people are still like that. Let me reread it. Therefore, for example, I developed such a template in one of the companies, which worked perfectly, and then we just used it for other vacancies, just prescribed it according to a template. There is an important part about the company itself. So if your company is not Google, Adidas, Pepsi or some other very well-known company, it is important to present your company a little bit in the vacancy itself. Then there should be something general about the vacancy. There may be some kind of story, the so-called hook. Yes, something that a person will read will attract his attention. For example, in this vacancy I'm talking about Mark Roberge's book there. Next, what we value in candidates. Yes, here are some things going on. The expected results are one of the first. Here we expect the results in as much detail as possible, too. Of course, they will have their own for each vacancy. And this is what really attracts people's attention. That is, people read and think like this is interesting. Yes, yes, and I did it. And I did that, and I didn't do that. That's what I'd like to do. I will definitely be the best here. Yes, a person reads and immediately thinks more objectively than some abstract duties. Well, look about the responsibilities. Here you are writing the duties of an accountant. Yes, any accountant reads, thinks, yes, I'm definitely an accountant, I can do it. Well, that is, there is not even a thought that I am an ideal candidate for this position or these tasks are very interesting to me. That is, duties can interest a person with another position. For example, is it possible to interest the head of the recruitment department in the duties of the director's sword, or is there a journalist's charm? Yes, that is, a person reads new duties for himself like this. Oh, I didn't do that, it's interesting. And if the director reads the spell, the duties of a charmed director are, well, charmed audit and charmed strategy. Implementation of the construction of enchantments of functions, working with a team, drawing up a budget charm, tracking metrics charms. Work with the involvement of personnel, interaction with business leaders, assistance to the company, achievement of business goals, participation in strategic planning. Cool functions, but in principle, well, any person and a charmed director will think about it if it is written. It is necessary to analyze the 10 best and enchanted systems, choose the one that best meets the needs of the company and implement it by the end of the year. Yes, is it more specific or is it written? We need to analyze the recruiting process and reduce the search time from 60 days to 45 days, increasing the acceptance of job offer from 30% to 50%. It's interesting. A person in general with what to compare. Yes, he's like that right away, but well, in principle, I solved this coolly. And there may be something else he will see new for himself and say, oh, that's it. That's something I've never done before. For example, to conduct regular trainings weekly for managers on the topic of people management. It is necessary for such a person to think, oh, this is cool. Then there are competences here, of course, well, just standard ones. You won't surprise people with anything particularly surprising here. But here's what's interesting, you can do. Yes, you have collected there those requirements that will be an advantage in the text of vacancies. It's better to publish it this way. And where there will be an advantage, it is also better to be as specific as possible. That is, there is knowledge of some concept, there is familiarity with some book, some unusual experience that a person had. That's something like that. And don't even let it frighten you that some things are indicated here that no one else may have. Yes, when I was making up the vacancy text, I thought so. They think who would be a really ideal candidate for me. I wrote it, then I read it myself. I think, well, there are no such people, but I'll think about it. I thought about it, but still these are optional requirements. It's perfect, published. And many people told me I was attracted by the demands. Someone said I saw myself here, and then you start asking, oh, cool. Do you have such fluent English? I don't have one, I have two, but I'm learning. Have you read the book? No, I haven't read the book, but I haven't heard. I'm just going to read it. People sort of sit down, pull something up, and as if they think they fit, they respond. And someone said, I understand that I am far from that, but I want to be that person. I had a feeling that I would get tired of this. Then you should write what you offer in as much detail as possible. And it shouldn't be. Again, what will everyone have? Young team, fast-growing, dynamic company, vacation. What else do they write? A comfortable office. That is, there should be maximum specifics. Yes, if you wrote a comfortable name, for example, not just a comfortable office with 6 kitchens, orthopedic chairs and 2 showers. But it's understandable. Yes, already some kind of representation of this office is being formed there, and in principle, something that most likely others will not have. Yes, there is, for example, taxi compensation if you are late at work, but this is also not often found their payment on top of the market. But it may be more common to meet an unlimited number of holidays, but this is more. Yes, such a rare thing. And it is best to finish the text of the vacancy not just finished with a description of the advantages. Yes, but a call to action. Interested yet? Well, here you can edit the text for yourself. Interested in the vacancy, I can't wait to start. Do you want to know the details? Send your resume there. Here is such a text of vacancies. I recommend developing it. I recommend developing it right here as a template and making sure that everyone in the company uses it. Next, a very important tool is a train map often. I've rarely ever seen it filled out. That's though it's a very important tool when it comes to finding passive candidates. Well, in general about after the candidate. So we basically have 2 such sources of candidates. Yes, the first is active candidates who send resumes themselves. We will see our vacancy somewhere, for example, on the job site, and there are candidates we are looking for. And here are the candidates we are looking for. We'll be able to find them. A sufficient number of them is good if we know how to search. Yes, often, for example, in our outline I meet questions, how to find Go developers from Ukraine who are currently abroad. Where to look for dentists from Czech. Where can I find an SMM manager in Kazakhstan? And these are the questions you know. Well, as if I immediately have some search queries in my head. Yes, what can you score there in Google to get to the right information? But there must be a search map for that. When you have a search map, and then it's a small matter, just be able to translate this map into search queries, knowing the search operators that we will talk about in the next lesson. For example, that the title of the position is clear in the search map. Synonyms of the title of the position. That's very important. Yes, not every recruiter knows, but what else can this position be called? And this recruiter, needs to enter the name of the position on the site on the melon link into the search, which, by the way, is neglected by many. And for a second, the melon links are growing by 20 million monthly users. It's just super much. Just think, 20 million users. That is, they grow by 240 million users per year. It's about, probably, like North America. Here they are. That is, there is active growth in all countries there. But you need to write something there. The title of the position when the recruiter receives a resume from candidates. Yes, you're reading there, you have a developer vacancy. You read a software VIA engineer, and this is a developer. Java is a developer, and this is a developer. Senior is a programmer, and this is a developer. Is it either written like that, yes, or something else? You can sort of interpret. But when you are sitting in front of the search window, yes, you need to write Sophia, yes, developer sign a Java developer in the program. That is, you need to sort through the links in your head. The smoke is the same. He does not know that you are looking for all kinds of developers and he himself will not put positions on him. Therefore, it is necessary to know further education. It often helps in the search. Keywords. Keywords are often confused with responsibilities or requirements. And the keywords are something that is contained in the resume or profile of our candidates, which most likely will not be in other positions. And they are also called slang keywords. That is, the recruiter will have the keyword their funnel, job competence, website, interview, sourcing. Yes, these are all the keywords of the recruiter's position, and most likely these keywords will not be in the position of a marketer, but 3 years of work experience. These are the words that everyone will have. Sociability is the words that everyone will have. Also, additional keywords are those that, if they occur, then this is a class in general. Summary. All sorts of websites, blogs, forums are for understanding where you can look for certifications. Certifications are generally very cool keywords in themselves. A group in all social networks. Where do we not hunt from if there are such agreements, or there is an understanding that in this company there is a set of people's knowledge that is not what we need? And the donor companies are the companies from where we know people work with a set of knowledge similar to us. This is a search card that must be filled in with the hiring manager every time the search starts. The next important tool is the score of cards. After we are looking for a candidate, we must be able to evaluate him. Accordingly, we need to prioritize certain candidates in some way. The scorecard or candidate shades card is a super popular tool, invented a long time ago, but not so often, unfortunately, used. Here it looks in a way that allows you to plan many things at once. Firstly, you can transfer the main points of the application here. Secondly, here you can develop a template for the text of vacancies. Thirdly, here you can immediately register a letter for the candidate's first contact when we contact him through mail. Then we can prescribe all our requirements and think through all the stages of selection that will take place at the candidate. And think in advance how we will evaluate what requirements at each stage of the selection. That is, we understand how and where we will check what. Here is a test task. We can also include the search strategy that we just discussed and the candidate evaluation map itself, where we evaluate each candidate. That is, we enter the names of the candidates, we enter those who are interviewing, and we put them on this 5-point scale. We give ratings to people. Yes, that is, we have a set of requirements, we have indicators that the requirements, or rather the candidate's experience meets the requirements. We check this with each other and give each candidate a grade. This helps to systematize recruiting very much and always recruit the best candidates. That is, not to rely on chance, luck, and so on. That's how fast cards work. Who uses the recruitment automation system? We'll talk about them now. In many of them, scorecard is already a built-in tool. That is, there is simply a need to prescribe a set of requirements. There is already a scale there, it is often 4-point. Here, well, the bottom line is that grades are filled in for all candidates. Then you see which candidate scored the most marks, which candidate's average score is the highest. Further, this is an ideal process. I call it the recruitment process of the company. The recruitment process should be described. It should consist of the main stages. Here I gave them as an example: planning, preparation, marketing, vacancies, sourcing, evaluation of the closure of the parcel. Here you will have an example of the process that I built into the company with the team. It is very much reduced on the right, but it is the same as the flowcharts. What's the idea? Recruiting works perfectly when there is a clearly prescribed process and it can then be followed with the help of such a process. First, you can train recruiters who get into the team. Secondly, you can watch and hold a meeting with each recruiter, just going through where the recruiter is now for each vacancy and what the next step is and whether all the necessary conditions are met. Plus, you can inform the head, but how it will work. That's the advantage of having such a process. Further, in recruiting there are, as we already see today, yes, many tools, and in general there are many approaches, rules and requirements, fulfilling which we get a more guaranteed result. Therefore, a very good approach is to conduct an audit of the recruitment system in the company. We have it here, and the link will be available. So it will be such a document. When you click on the link, click Create a Copy. I'm just opening the original. So we immediately open an audit of the rating system. We have to read each criterion, description for our company and put a mark on whether our requiring corresponds to each item in our company at the end. This is where we get the percentage of compliance. What we should do next is to try to implement everything that is missing now in the near future. So here are both tools and some approaches. Pay attention here, there. In addition to the headlines, there are probably about 200 items that are evaluated in order to, and 192 points that are evaluated so that your recruiting system is perfect. Since we started talking about the recruitment audit, yes, it is often associated with the work of the head of the recruiting department. Immediately I want to show you some other very important useful tools that are in the same pile. First, an audit of the value proposition. Maybe it's a little early to talk about this at the recruiting stage, and we will still have a lesson about the employer's brand where we will talk about it in more detail. But in recruiting, of course, the more attractive the company, the more responses and the greater the percentage of acceptance of drivers. Therefore, in general, it is also very useful to evaluate your value for your value proposition. Here are the main points of the value proposition. The principle is the same. You just, if you have one, tick the box and then count as a percentage how perfect your IP is. What else is in this document? Did we open it right away? This is a recruiting strategy. This does not mean a search strategy for a specific vacancy, but a strategy of the department or of the recruiting department in which all possible goals of the company are indicated. There is even an opportunity to calculate the required number of recruiters. Plus, it is possible to plan the goals of the recruiting department, metrics, all kinds of budgets, resources, and so on, up to the action plan. That is, it is useful in order to manage requiring more systematically. What else is useful here? This document has a file for evaluating recruiters. So recruiters, they will work at maximum efficiency when they know absolutely everything that recruiting can know, and you can find out what they know that they don't know by asking them to fill out this document. How does it work? They read each section and read the description once, twice, 3 times, choosing which of these descriptions most corresponds to them, and put the number 1 to the one that corresponds more. And that's how all the sections are. There are a lot of them here too. That is, your recruiters are evaluated comprehensively. Every recruiter should have such a file. To make it easy, you can click Copy to New Table right here or create a copy of the file here. Well, every recruiter will have a copy. Yes, that is, you can evaluate each recruiter at the bottom of this file. When there are grades, he will evaluate the recruiter's level. But I put a single one here, this is JNII. The more points scored here, the higher the recruiter's level will be here. What else? There is also such a useful tool called Persona. This is the tool that allows you to describe the target audience of candidates. We will also talk about him at classes about the employer's brand today simply as a convenient tool that allows us to clearly imagine who our target candidate is. There is also a tool for the candidate's journey map, which allows us to evaluate all the stages of selection, see what is happening with the candidate, what thoughts and feelings he has, and think about how we can at each stage of the candidate. Promotion of a candidate to our company, how we can interest him as much as possible. And in addition to this point, there is a sales stages plate, which indicates the main stages that the candidate is already going through on the way to our company. And what can we do in order to get the candidate interested in working with us as much as possible? Yes, so that we get us at the exit. Such tools are available in this link. I'll be back. This was recruiting, or rather an audit of the recruiting system. We also have an audit of the recruiting system in this file. There is an audit of recruiting metrics in this audit file. It's very simple there. You just need to note which metrics companies analyze, which they analyze. But in general, this is a full-fledged set of metrics that are useful to count and useful to track your company. There is a recruiting strategy in the file. There is a section where there is an opportunity to set goals for the most important metrics recruit. Also pay attention. Next, I showed it. Yes, this is a very useful tool for evaluating recruiters. The only thing is that it needs to be positioned correctly. That is, do not tell the recruiter that you know, now we will come to an assessment, we will fire half of you. Yes, to say that this assessment tool will allow you to find out what other buildings we can give you to make your work as efficient as possible. Here is the next useful tool, a report on the work of the recruiter. Again, if the company has a recruiting automation system or HR automation system with a recruiting function, then in principle this report will be in the system. Yes, it will be possible to unload it there. Or many systems allow the manager to log in and view the status, view statistics. If there is no system for recruiting, it is very useful when hiring managers for their vacancies receive a status on a weekly basis. What interests the hiring manager the most? He is interested in what happened this week, how much feedback we received, how many candidates we found ourselves, how many telephone interviews we conducted, how many interview charms there were, how many tests, test tasks. How many interviews were there with the hiring manager, that is, with me? Yes, how about him, as a customer? How many final interviews were there? Have offers been made? Have offers been accepted? And so it is for each vacancy, and by the hiring manager. It's interesting to see this in Dynamics. Therefore, one column is 1 week. Yes, that is, this is such an ordinary sign, which here it expands to the right, the next week is added. And then everything is summed up for all the time, so that at some stage the hiring manager generally sees how much, at what stage what was. Plus a list of candidates with statuses and comments is also useful. Well, that is, it turns out that with the help of such a report of the hiring manager, everything is banal before your eyes. Next, the recruitment automation tool is a very important useful thing because it allows our recruiters to save a lot of time. At the expense of what? Due to the fact that many tasks, many functions are performed automatically by the system. There are different options. Yes, there are world leaders who are highly specialized. They are only engaged in recruiting. Here they don't even care much about the translation of their product there. They work for global corporations there. I would single out companies such as Recruit, Britty, Comet and Greenhouse here. And there are systems that are not international. Yes, there, for example, such as PeopleForce. In particular, this is the Ukrainian system. It just supports different languages. And the guys are adding new languages. And this system, for example, what is the advantage that this system is for recruiting and for other HR functions? Yes, because they often want companies to have absolutely everything in one system, not just recruiting. Here's a PeopleForce, it just allows you to combine everything. On the one hand, it is very convenient recruiting, which functionality is constantly growing. On the other hand, this includes performance management, vacation management, application management, from the structure, the list of employees, in general, anything. Further, companies often try to save money, doubt that a recruitment automation system is needed. Fortunately, there are already convincing arguments why it is necessary to introduce recruiting. Yes, for example, Breezy and Char have a cool article where they explain in numbers why it is profitable to automate recruiting, that the money saved on recruiters' salaries there is much more than the money spent on such a system. Now the homework is for those who are on the course. You will need to adapt any tool from the list here for your company or for a specific vacancy, depending on what tool you choose. That is, the result is a tool sent through your personal account, where it is clear that this is not just the one that you were given, yes, but you adapted it for yourself there. And the second task is to test the recruiting system, for example, IPL Force. Yes, to see how it works. A few links to useful materials on today's topic. And I'll tell you right away what will happen next in class. Yes, also for understanding. In the second lesson, we will talk about sourcing tools. And specifically, we will talk about where to look for synonyms of the title of the position. We will talk about how you can create search queries and what tools are available for this. Yes, because there are such tools where you can simply enter all the parameters and it will generate a search query by itself. Same for X-ray search. Let's talk about how to form a search query on the most popular sites like Facebook, LinkedIn, and many others in order to find candidates. Let's discuss the most popular and effective sourcing plugins, for example, those that can open a contact on LinkedIn. Let's talk about all kinds of resources. Let's also talk about the automation of sourcing. I'll give you an example. Several systems that allow you to significantly save time on sourcing. We will discuss the tools for contacting candidates, more precisely, searching for candidates, and discuss letters. Examples of letters for passive candidates, that is, letter templates that can be written to each candidate. This is not a complete list. Like today, let there be more than just in the program. I try to keep the program as concise as possible. Here is the plan for the lesson as follows. That's all for today. If you have any questions, please ask in the chat. If there are no questions, you can write what was most valuable to you today. Well, taking this opportunity, I repeat, I invite you to take this course. This is really such a very focused, voluminous course where there are a lot of tools, templates, documents, examples, links. Well, in general, so much that you can just take it there and immediately apply it at work, or adapt everything in work. That's it, that's the course. So I see your thanks. Please. Thanks to everyone who was online today. I was glad to see everyone. Well, I'm glad to meet the students. I will be glad to continue interacting with you, and I will be glad to see you at the next lesson also online. I usually recommend sending homework once a week, but in general you can send it later. So there is a question. Okay, let's write your question, or do you want to ask a little microphone? Tatiana, I'll do this. Yes, you can turn on the microphone. I have now given such an opportunity. Try it. Hello, Mike. We wanted to find out about the next course. We have 2 groups, so how will we be held, on what days and at what time? But I think you need to discuss this with support. Because this course, yes, which started today, he will have exactly the same as today. It's Thursday, all classes will be held there at 16:00 in Kiev. About the second group, check with the support you are communicating with, they will tell you the current schedule. I just don't quite know which ones. How are you there? What groups, what courses are taking place?
Like this, hello. Can I have more questions? Yes, and I'm also from Henker Bank. I connected later, so if I missed it, I'm sorry. I have a few questions. Will it be possible to record the course during the lesson in order to listen to and consolidate the information later? Will you give the data access to record?
Yes, yes, of course. As with all courses, there is access to a personal account where a record is posted the next day and you can report for a whole year or we can record ourselves.
Вы сами будете сюда вкладывать или мы сами можем записывать?
No, no, no. You don't write it down, we post it. And you have an entrance to your personal account and you just go there and see it all. That is, everyone does it for you. Don't you need to do anything yourself?
The second question. As I understand it, all slides are provided in English. Yes, it is.
By default, in English. And who chose the translation package? Do you have an additional translation?
But if we make an additional payment, when can we receive the transfer? After the end of one lesson or after the translation course? After each lesson, the translation will be excellent for each lesson and the question will follow. How will we pass the homework and in what format will we?
Is it in? You will have a personal account or maybe you already have one in your personal account. It's just a website where you go. There you can see the recording of the webinar, see all the presentation materials. You can download additional tools, you can download them, save them. There will also be homework and you write the answer right there and get feedback there. That is, when I check my homework and answer you, a notification comes to your email and you also see the answer to your homework in your personal account.
The personal account is where you indicated on this site.
Yes, well, yes, you should have come to the post office. But again, if you didn't find it there, contact support, they will help you.
I see, thank you, please.
I see Elena also asked about the house building. I opened the slide with the home building again. That is, a home building. Adapt any tool of today's lesson to your company or vacancy. For example, if this is the text of vacancies, just describe your particular vacancy using this template, for example. Plus, test the system for recruiting automation, for example, PeopleFS. There is a demo there, you can fill it up, ask for it and test it. Here is a homework assignment. Okay, thanks for the questions. Thanks to everyone who was online. Glad to see everyone on the course. And see you in exactly a week. Bye-bye, see you soon.